The midnight train. The night air was frigid, the kind of cold that crept under your skin and settled deep in your bones. Alex sat on the worn wooden bench of the old train station, the dim glow of a flickering light casting long shadows that seemed to dance with the howling wind. The digital clock above the platform read 11:47 p.m. The train was late, unusually so, but then again, little was usual about this night. Alex was heading back to college after a brief visit home, a trip made in haste, to collect some forgotten essentials for the upcoming semester. The platform was deserted, save for the occasional rustle of leaves and the distant sound of a dog barking. Every sound seemed amplified in the silence that hung heavily in the air. From the darkness at the far end of the platform, a figure emerged, a man tall and gaunt, with a weather-beaten face that spoke of years spent outdoors. He wore an old trench coat that fluttered about his legs as he walked, a battered hat pulled down over his eyes. "You shouldn't get on the train tonight," he said, his voice a raspy whisper that seemed almost swallowed by the wind. Alex looked up, startled by the sudden company. "Excuse me?" The man stopped a few feet away, his gaze fixed on something distant, something perhaps only he could see. "The midnight train doesn't take you where you think it does. Not tonight. Not ever again if you're bored." His words were cryptic, the eerie tones sending a shiver down Alex's spine. Alex scoffed, a nervous laugh hiding genuine unease. "Look, I don't know what you're talking about. I just want to go back to school." But the stranger had already turned away, his figure retreating into the shadows as silently as he had appeared. Minutes ticked by, each one stretching longer than the last. Finally, with a screech of metal on metal and a piercing whistle, the train slid into the station. It was an old model, its paint chipped and faded, the windows grimy. Alex glanced around. The platform was still empty, the strange man nowhere to be seen. Steeling himself against the unnerving encounter, Alex boarded the train, the doors hissed shut behind him. And with a jolt, the train began to move. The carriage was dimly lit and empty. Alex's footsteps echoed as he moved down the aisle, the hair on the back of his neck standing on end. He chose a seat near the middle, the upholstery frayed and the springs creaking as he sat. As the train plunged into the darkness outside the city limits, a palpable sense of isolation crept over him. The lights flickered, and for a moment, the carriage was plunged into darkness. When the lights blinked back on, Alex wasn't alone. Across from him sat a young woman, her eyes wide with terror, her mouth moving as if in silent scream. Beside her, an old man stared out the window, his expression blank, his skin ashen. Neither seemed aware of Alex's presence. Panic gripped him as the train rattled on, the landscape outside shifting unnaturally, the trees blurred past, their branches twisted into grotesque shapes. The sky turned a deep bloody red, the moon a sliver of bone in the sky. Alex's heart pounded in his chest as he tried to make sense of the nightmare unfolding around him. The air grew colder, the breath turning to mist before his eyes. The figures around him multiplied, each passenger locked in their own silent torment, trapped in whatever horror they saw in the darkness beyond the windows. With each passing mile, the train seemed to burrow deeper into a world of shadows and mist, a landscape of horrors pulled from the darkest corners of Alex's mind. He saw faces he recognized, friends, family, people he had lost, each one appearing outside the window, their expressions twisted in fear or accusation. As the train hurtled through the night, Alex realized the truth of the stranger's warning. This was no ordinary train, and this journey was one into the very heart of his fears, each stop delving deeper into his past, confronting him with memories he had tried to bury, regrets, guilt, moments of cruelty and cowardice. The train slowed as it approached another station, the sign reading a name Alex did not recognize. He stood, his legs shaky, his mind reeling. As the doors opened, he faced a choice: step off into the unknown or remain aboard, trapped on this spectral journey into his past. With a deep breath, Alex stepped off the train, the platform before him shrouded in fog. The train doors closed behind him with a hiss, the sound echoing like a whisper through the trees. As it pulled away, the lights flickered once more, and then the train vanished into the night, leaving Alex alone with the chilling silence and the weight of the unknown stretching out before him. The platform where Alex stood was desolate, shrouded in a thick, impenetrable fog that seemed to swallow the very air. His heart thudded painfully against his ribs, each beat a loud echo in the oppressive silence that enveloped him. He glanced around, trying to discern any feature that might indicate where he was, but there was nothing, only the endless grey that stretched into oblivion. As he stepped forward, the gravel beneath his feet crunched unnaturally loud, and a cold breeze whispered past, carrying with it faint voices as if the fog itself was speaking to him. The words were indistinct, a jumble of sounds that prickled the back of his neck with dread. Alex! The voice was a mere breath, yet it froze him in place. It was his mother's voice, filled with the warmth and love he remembered, but underneath it was something else, a tremor of fear. "Mom," he called out, his voice sounding alien in the murk. "Is that you?" There was no answer, only the soft murmur of the fog. With each step he took, the voices grew louder, a cacophony of whispers, each one clawing at his sanity, dredging up memories he had long suppressed. Memories of his childhood home, the nights of thunderous arguments between his parents, the sharp words that had cut deeper than he had admitted. As he walked, the fog began to thin, revealing glimpses of a town, his hometown as it had been years ago, the old movie theater, the diner where he'd worked one summer, the park where he'd had his first kiss. Each landmark was perfectly preserved, a snapshot of a past he thought he'd left behind. But something was wrong. The streets were empty, the windows of the houses dark. It was as if the entire town was holding its breath, waiting for him. He walked to his childhood home, the path so familiar yet so alien under the eerie, unnatural light that seemed to seep from the ground. The house looked just as he remembered, the paint peeling in the same places, the front porch swing gently swaying as if just vacated. The front door was ajar, inviting him in. With a trembling hand, he pushed it open and stepped inside. The air was stale, heavy with the scent of old memories. Photos lined the walls. His family at various stages of life, smiling faces that masked the turmoil that had bubbled beneath the surface. In the living room, the TV was on, playing scenes from his life like some twisted highlight reel. Moments of joy overshadowed by the darker times, each clip a needle threading through the fabric of his past, stitching together a tapestry of pain and regret. "You left us," a voice said, so close it made him jump. Turning, he saw his father standing in the doorway, his features hard and unyielding, but his eyes were full of sorrow. "I had to leave," It was too much, Alex replied, his voice barely a whisper, the weight of unspoken words heavy on his tongue. You abandoned your mother. You abandoned me. It wasn't accusation in his father's tone, but an unbearable sadness. Alex felt a tear trail down his cheek, the first of many, as the dam within him broke. I'm sorry, Dad. I was just a kid. I couldn't fix. You couldn't try, his father interrupted, his voice cracking with emotion. You ran from your ghost son, but they always find you. The room shifted, the walls closing in as the shadows deepened. Alex felt the presence of the train, the sense of motion returning as if he had never left the carriage. The TV flickered, and he was back there, alone in the darkness, the faces of his fellow passengers reflecting his own fear. The train was no longer moving through the landscape of his past, but through the landscape of his soul, each compartment a different regret, each stop a chance to confront what he had fled from. His journey was not just a haunting, but a reckoning. As the train pulled into another station, Alex knew what he had to do. This time, when the doors opened, he stepped out not into a place of fear, but into a realm of understanding, ready to face whatever lay ahead, to forgive himself and to heal. The fog lifted as he walked away from the train, the voices fading into silence. The air felt lighter, the burden of the past no longer his to carry alone. And though the path forward was unclear, Alex walked on, his steps more sure than they had ever been, out of the darkness and into the dawn.
If you enjoyed this chilling story, let us know by smashing that like button. We upload new spine-tingling tales every week, so subscribe to our channel and hit that notification button so you never miss an episode. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback shapes our future uploads. Stay spooky, and we'll see you in the next video.